magic button and see what happens on the magic stream here. Should be kicking in any second. I love the background because it makes you look like you're so learned. Well, good morning, good afternoon. It's between chair and keyboard. I guess I'm your host, Nate Shuda. I'm part of the advocacy team here at VMware, and I am delighted to be joined today by my friend, Pratik Patel, who is going to talk to us about all sorts of interesting stuff today, I'm sure. So, just as a reminder, the whole point of this show is for me personally to make up for the lack that I don't get a chance to hang out with my friends like Pratik in various interesting locations, and hopefully to help everybody learn more about my interesting friends, colleagues, and folks in this industry. Instead of focusing on the latest library or technology or anything like that, we're going to try to get to know people a little bit and dig into what makes them, well, them. So, without further ado, Pratik, welcome to the show. Glad to have you, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me on, Nate.
Absolutely. So, now, I know your background a little bit, and I know how you feel about Duke basketball in particular, but why don't you give us your sort of short and sweet, who the heck is Pratik, and how you get into this weird world we call software?
Yeah, so let me start with the present. I live in Atlanta, or Hotlanta as we call it here, and I'm a big tech community person here locally. I help run the Atlanta Java User Group, North Atlanta JavaScript, and Big Data Atlanta. Of course, all that is virtual right now. And longtime software dev, of course, got into software and hardware actually many years ago when I was a teenager. And where I grew up in the middle of nowhere, wasn't really much to do, and MTV got boring very quickly. So besides working on my basketball skills and my future entry into the NBA, I hacked around with electronics and eventually badgered my parents enough until they got me a PC and did stuff on that. Of course, did stuff at school a little bit on like the old Apple IIs and stuff like that. But it's a short kind of background. So yeah, I did. I call myself all-around hardware and software nerd. I know a lot of people just do software and some people just do hardware, but even today I was messing around with some Arduinos and some Raspberry Pis this morning to build something for my house actually to keep it a little cooler during the summertime. But anyways, we can get to that a bit later. So
Nice, nice,
yeah.
awesome. So, do you remember your first program? Do you remember what you wrote?
It was actually in Turtle
Oh,
uh,
wow.
a long time ago.
Jeez.
I don't remember how old I was. I wasn't very old. I think
Okay.
I may have been like less than 10 or something. But they had a little Apple II and you had a little turtle thing, and you make it go left and up and down or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting and make the computer do stuff. Um, but then swiftly moved on to like other things. I think the first Google program I wrote was probably in Pascal,
Okay.
but I'm in trouble remembering. It was quite a while ago, as you can imagine. So
Well, we're all getting to be of a certain age, right? Getting older sucks except for the alternatives.
that's right. That's right.
See, I very distinctly remember writing a program that drew the Olympic rings, and I thought that was just one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. And I mean, it tells you kind of where we were at back in the day that we thought that was like the height of what a computer. Now it's like, haha, isn't that cute?
Yeah, I kind of that always reminds me of a little quote from I think it was Bill Gates. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who said that no one needs more than
Yes.
whatever 24K of RAM or something like that.
Yeah, it was some ridiculously small amount that today we're like, but that wouldn't run anything.
Yeah,
And that is one of the interesting things about this industry, isn't it? How things that used to be considered large are now like, what would you even do with that? I mean, think
yeah.
about a floppy. Do you have any floppies sitting around the house right now? Any like old diskettes
I
somewhere?
actually was cleaning out the garage the other day, and I found a whole stack of 3.5-inch floppies. I don't have any of the 5 1/4,
Yeah,
five
five
and a
and a
quarter.
quarter, the soft floppies, right? And
Yeah,
there
the
was a
soft
bigger
flop.
one too at one point, I think.
Yeah, the 8-inch one or whatever. But yeah, I found a whole bunch of them. Like, I wonder what's on this. And I actually even found a floppy drive. It was
Really?
I don't know why I have it. It's like a USB floppy drive. It
Oh
just
my
I
gosh.
must have kept it. Um, and moving house to house, it just like I sat in my parents' house for years and years, and eventually they're like, "We're moving. You need to get all your crap out of our house." And so like I transported the box from their house to my house or apartment, and then like it's just been following me around.
Right. Right.
But you know what else is really funny? I saw someone tweet the other day that they were trying to do an update for their Apple Watch. There's apparently a new version of what do they call it, Watch OS or something?
Yeah, I
I don't,
believe so.
I
Yeah.
don't have Apple Watch. Yeah, and they said that they weren't able to do it because the Watch update required 3 gigs of free space,
Oh, interesting.
right? And that's well, I'm not wearing a watch, but pulling up my wrist, and that's on your wrist, and
Right.
you have like 4 gigabytes or some ridiculous 8 gigabytes or something on your wrist. And it kind of begs the question to me. It's like I understand that like memory is like easily produced and it's cheap, and it's like why do you need 4 gigs on your watch, on your wrist,
Right.
on your watch?
Right.
It's like we don't. I mean,
Because we
MP3,
can.
yeah. Anyways, we
It's like,
maybe a
why
bit
do people
later.
climb mountains, right? It's like because they can.
Yeah, maybe a bit later. You allow me to go into a little bit of a rant on the state of computing and how like we were just talking about MacBooks,
Yeah.
laptops, and it's like this machine is like incredibly fast, but it's so slow at the same time. It's like, and that's a software problem, in my opinion.
Right.
It's not a hardware problem. The hardware is there and it's great, and it's got all the accelerations and the instruction set and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, why does everything run so slow? Because the software is slow. And maybe that we'll save that rant for later.
Oh, well, I'm just here for the rants. I mean, that's half the point of this is just try to get my guests to go on some kind of an interesting rant. So, yeah, we'll put a pin in that one, but absolutely. Well, it's funny. I'm old enough to remember when having even just like 32 megs of RAM was considered a lot in a computer, and now like 32 gig is like a starter for many of us. It's like, oh, I guess I could run some Docker containers if I had that much, maybe, and I could have Slack open at the same time with maybe up to 10 Chrome, tabs open. So it's interesting again how that sort of our perception of what is enough changes over time.
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. It's I think it's it feels like everything, not just tech, is like getting bigger in some ways, but then there's some certain things that get smaller. And this is like a little bit of an interesting kind of mental exercise. One of my favorite restaurants, fast food restaurants. I grew up in North Carolina, so one of my favorite fast food restaurants, many years, has been Bojangles. I don't know if you've ever been to one before, but it's basically like a fried chicken kind of place. And I remember it used to be like my favorite place to go. I love their chicken sandwich, right, and their Cajun fries or whatever. And I went back. We don't have a lot here in Atlanta. Many of them here in Atlanta, and I went recently, and I got what I'd always got: chicken sandwich, you know, Cajun fries, and an iced tea. Right, good old high calorie, high sugar Southern lunch. And it started eating the sandwich. I'm like, this sandwich is a lot smaller than I remember it being. And like the chicken piece is like, it's like about this big. And then I started thinking about like the economics of it. It's like, so this chicken sandwich combo cost $7, let's say with tax, right? And back in the day, like we go back 10, 20 years maybe, that same combo was maybe $5 and then
Sure.
$6. And if you think like if from a pure economics point of view, it's like how much is $5? $5 20 years ago is probably worth $10 today,
Right.
right? If you're able to keep that price point like really low, and of course that has an impact somewhere, and that is the size of your chicken sandwich all of a
Right.
sudden, like smaller and smaller, and maybe of lesser quality and blah blah blah. So it's just kind of interesting how that works. One of my hobbies is like kind of looking at like economics. Armchair economist, I think, is what I used to have on my Twitter handle. Um, but it's it's just kind of little things that you notice. It's like these things are cheaper, but they're actually of lesser quality or smaller quantity. Another example is like a 2x4. When you go to the Home Depot and you buy some lumber, a 2x4 is not really 2x4,
Right.
right? It's smaller than that, and
Right.
it's like apparently at one point in time they actually used to be exactly 2 inches by 4 inches, but they're no longer that because they can get more wood or more 2x4s out of the tree, blah blah blah. Anyways, it's interesting. So the
I
total
I feel like,
total different segue into economics from software, but
well, it feels like you're about 30 seconds away from saying back in my day,
back in my day, a 2x4 was a 2x4.
and I walked up the hill both ways to school. Now, in my part of the world, I'd say in the freezing snow, not so much in Atlanta or North Carolina for that matter. You don't have to shovel heat, I've been told. So
Yeah, it's tough to carry time.
that's right. So now I know you from the speaker world. I know we've been to a bunch of conferences, a bunch of events together. So when you got into organizing events, what was
Mm.
like the biggest surprise to you in terms of, wow, I had no idea that organizers had to do this and this and this?
Yeah, you already hinted at like the biggest thing, which is the sheer amount of work that's involved in doing something like that. But beyond that, um, it's let me I'm just trying to think where to start. Probably the biggest thing is it's and I think that if a lot of people don't realize this is that when you're running an event, you're basically starting a business, right?
Sure.
And so that with that comes everything that a business that you're starting would come with. That means paperwork and filing taxes and all those different things. And the sheer volume of that, you're basically running a business at that point, right? Even if it's a small business, you're still running a business, and that requires having to fill out tax forms and stuff like that. Thankfully for me, the person that I do this stuff with, Vincent Mayers, who's also here in Atlanta, he he handles most of that stuff, which is great. Well, he does handle most of it. Initially, he did everything himself, and now we just have an accountant do it. Um, but yeah, it's just you have to think about like, oh, do we need liability insurance, for example, right? How much will that cost? It doesn't cost much, but like you
Right.
just all the little things like the many thousands of things that when you're running a small business, all the things that you have to think of, um, and it's running any kind of conference or event. You also need a fair amount of technology infrastructure. You need a website. You need a way for people to um, send you proposals for talks, and you could go low tech with it and just use like Google Sheets and Google Forms, and other people do that. That's fine. Like we built our own. Well, I used a open source project and adapted it, extended it to build a CFP system, which you've used
Yep.
actually. And then when you look at like kind of the economics of that and like running a business again, um, ticket sales are a big thing. We run community conferences here, so we don't run something that's like completely free, but it's not something like very expensive.
Right.
It's a community event. So we want everyone to come, but we don't want to make it bare bones so that like everyone has to scramble for lunch. It's nice to have lunch there and sit at a table at the conference and meet some people in your community, or someone like Nate comes and he sits at your table, or whoever. Right, there are people from everywhere nowadays come to these events. Um, and like you get hit with a lot of these low fees. So we actually took a ticketing system and we adapted it, and we essentially run our own ticketing system rather than running like an Eventbrite or Tito or whatever, because that's fees that you incur with that, and with the money we save with that, as we throw MacBooks and Google Home Minis and other things like that at our attendees once we balance the books, and like, oh, here's a whole bunch of stuff. So like to, it's nice to give people something aside from the incredible knowledge that they gain at the
Right.
event. It's nice to be able to take home, like, if you're lucky, a MacBook. But I think we gave out like, I don't know, 50 prizes at um, one of our big events here called DevNexus, which you mentioned previously, big Java event. But yeah, it's anyways, it's there's a lot more to it than that, obviously. But those are kind of the biggest things that I talk to folks about, and just being able to carve out that time and responding to the other thing is responding to the thousands of emails that,
Oh, I bet.
that go back and forth as you're trying to put this on from attendees, coddling all the speakers, and
Are you saying we're divas? Come on now. I mean,
that's right. So yeah, it it's but my biggest advice to folks around this is that be aware of what you're getting into, and if you're not like genuinely interested and have a passion for running an event, a conference, or whatever, and bringing people together, then it's don't do it, because it's
right.
not really, the amount of effort you put in, you don't get substantial returns on in terms of monetary or whatever. But if you have a true passion for, like, hanging out with people and bringing people together and community building, then by all means, go down that road. So
It strikes me a lot as like writing a book. There's so much more that goes into it that you don't realize until you've done it. And the return, if you're talking about monetary, is not high, but I don't think that's why most of us write books or why most people you put on events. So, but
hang on,
thank goodness that you do.
I'm going to disappear off camera for
Okay.
just a second.
Oh,
From that.
it's
I,
like a
I got
magic show. Like, ooh, where did he
Yeah,
go? He'll be coming back shortly.
I actually have props.
Oh,
So
he's got props today.
yeah, I just, well, they were just there. I didn't actually plan this, but this is the first book I wrote. I'm gonna hold this up. Hopefully, you can,
Nice. Well done.
right? And after I wrote this book, I said I'm never writing a book
Never again.
again. And then, of course, about a year later, the publisher came to me and said, "Hey,
Could you
we're
do
looking
another one?
for more stuff on Java." So hence this book was born. We move it in frame, right? And that was a long time ago. But
It's
yes,
okay.
it's it's the same advice. Unless you're really passionate about writing a book, don't do it.
It's like having kids. You don't realize how much work it is till you've had one, and then somehow you forget it, and then you have another one. Well, some people do. I just have one. I stopped before it could get out of hand. But some people don't. Some people just keep having kids. That's cool.
Yeah. Hey,
So
you wrote a book, right? What
I've
was
written
your
a
book?
few. I think I'm up to four or five. I'm not nowhere near as prolific as Venkat. Venkat makes it
Okay.
look easy. I had him on last week, and I'm just like, what is your process? Like, oh, just sit down and pound out a book in like 2 weeks. I'm like, well, like that's not how it works for 99.9% of us, but he is the
One
exception that
guy
proves
now.
every rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's remarkably lifelike to say the least.
What
So,
was the last book you wrote? Just out of curiosity.
what
I should know this, but it's been a while since we chatted. So,
I wrote a couple books on Ajax back in the day, and one
mm,
specifically on Java frameworks in Ajax. And I wrote a presentation book with Matthew Bella and Neil
oh yeah,
Ford.
presentation pattern. That's
Yep.
right, of course.
Yep.
Yep.
And that one's probably one of my favorites. And then I've got a couple of those little report-like things. Like the one's sort of over my shoulder there, the thinking architecturally, and just had a new one come out on responsible microservices. So, I try. I've got another book that's sort of maybe kind of in that nebulous, maybe getting started phase. We'll see if it comes of it.
Yeah. Every few months, I'm like, man, it would be amazing if there's a book on this. I should write it. And
Right.
then I remind myself, like,
Like, oh wait, that's a lot of work.
well, maybe not.
But
Maybe
see,
not.
it's fall here in Minnesota, which means winter is right around the corner, which means all of my
Mhm.
outdoor activities will come to a screeching halt. So I may have a lot more free time on my hands. I don't know. I guess we'll see. For me, the advantage of pandemic time is I'm actually getting to play golf and ride my bike, which I don't normally get to do because I spend several hundred hours a year on airplanes. Well, I'm not doing that, so that time gets spent on other more interesting pursuits.
That's true, actually. Uh, I've been doing similar things to you. Not playing golf so much, but riding my bike, um, and trying to get exercise, stay fit in this pandemic. In case the worst happens or whatever. Um, but before this started, we were talking about, have you reached the end of Netflix
Yes.
yet?
Yes. Well, we'll get to that. I have some questions around what you're streaming, but I want to know who's the genius behind your T-shirts? Because I pulled this one out today specifically for you, and it's one of
Yeah.
several, and they're all amazing. Who comes up with this? Because they're so freaking good.
Yeah, so what we do is the T-shirt that you're wearing, for the viewers out there, is from DevNexus, which is a big enterprise and Java event that we run here in Atlanta out of the not-for-profit Atlanta Java User Group, or AJA community. And we like to, it's uh, like you, I speak at a lot of conferences, and probably like you also, I usually pass on the swag, right? It's like, nah, I don't need another shirt because, I say as politely as
I'm not allowed to
possible.
bring home bags anymore. My
Right,
wife
there
has
you go.
forbidden me to bring home bags.
Right, right. I was actually cleaning out my closet. I was like, I have so many conference T-shirts. I have just no idea. Anyways, I don't take them anymore. But for DevNexus, we have a board of 7 to 8 people on it. And a few years ago, we're like, we should give the speaker something really nice, something memorable that they would actually wear, right? Something fun. So we were like, let's do some stupid geek mashup things, like what you're wearing with Star Wars and Star Trek. And we did that the first year. I think we did the Star Wars: The Wrath of Khan. I
Yes.
don't think you did that event.
Yep.
Maybe you did. Um, and it was a huge hit. And so and Vincent Mayers and I came up with that. And so now what we do is when we're doing planning for the next Nexus, we actually have a segment in our planning meeting where we actually talk about the speaker show. And so
Nice.
everyone comes up with some ideas. And then usually Vincent goes and like he basically designs it or whatever. And then we send it off to, we do a review and then we send it off to the printers. But it's usually a little bit of a team effort. We have
Sure.
enough Star Wars and Star Trek and other TV show nerds where we're able to come up with something interesting and fun. So, yeah, it's
Well, they are some of my favorite T-shirts. There's no getting around it. I do appreciate the effort. So it does not go unnoticed, my friend.
yeah. There's actually a very interesting story about that. One of our other speakers, a colleague of mine at IBM, JJ Asgar, he was wearing the shirt. I think on the way back from DevNexus this year, and there was somebody in the waiting area on the same flight as him, Patton Oswalt. You've heard
Yeah.
of him, Indian. And he said, "That's an amazing shirt." Patton said, "That's an amazing shirt." So he got a selfie with him and Patton because of the shirt.
That's
So
awesome.
he tweeted it, and Patton Oswalt tweeted to whatever his million followers.
Millions of followers. Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So that's fun. So
That's
we're
awesome.
glad that people enjoy it. It's fun, right? So
Well, as you know, DevNexus is one of my favorite events. I love it. I love coming down to Atlanta. It's an easy flight. Well, flight, haha, like we leave the house anymore. But, it's definitely been one of my favorite events over the years. I'm always happy to come down and hang out with you guys. You do a fantastic job. I mean, it's really well run, really well organized, great group, great audience. It's just it's a good event. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. So speaking of Netflix, what are you streaming these days? What show do I have to add to my queue?
I just finished watching Raised by Wolves, which is a Ridley Scott um, production. And
Future dystopian. It's a real uplifting show.
yeah, it's not it can be a little depressing at times. Not as depressing as Battlestar Galactica, though.
Fair
Let's be
point.
very clear about that.
Fair point.
Almost had to go into therapy after watching Battlestar Galactica. That's a different story. Um, but yeah, it's got androids, it's got space travel, it's got weird creatures, it's got everything. But it's really well done. It's hard to find good sci-fi. I had big hopes for the second season of Altered Carbon.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Haven't seen that one yet.
That- That's based on a book. The first season was really good, and the second season I got 2 episodes and I was like, nah. But anyway, but yes, Raised by Wolves is probably my favorite sci-fi show in a while.
Have you
And I
been
wasn't.
watching Lovecraft Country? Speaking of HBO,
Haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
yeah,
It's
that's
on.
that's J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele. It's a crazy mashup of their minds, is the best way I can describe it. It's
I heard it was a little different. I think it was a little different.
fair point. There's more than a few times you're like, what is going on? What is this in the past, the future, some other dimension? It's definitely unique. But
Yeah. Well, what have you seen recently, Nate? That is
oh,
interesting.
Ted Lasso is the show that has been making me incredibly happy, and I was so sad when we watched the season finale, and my wife immediately said, "We're watching it again." And so I'm sure we're gonna have to go back through it. It's a little half-hour show on Apple TV. It's funny, uplifting, heartwarming. It's actually based on a character that NBCSN used for bumpers when they bought the Premier League rights here in the U.S. and knew that most people didn't know what soccer was. And so it's this American football coach who goes to England to coach
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
soccer. It's
Oh,
awesome. It is so well done. The writing's great. Jason Sudeikis, I think, is the lead guy. He's phenomenal. Coach
yeah,
Beard
yeah.
is phenomenal. I mean, it is hilarious. There's been multiple times we've had to we just all three of us just erupt in laughter, and we have to rewind and watch it again and erupt in laughter. And it's the content that frankly I needed at this time in human history for sure.
Oh, it's good to know. I used to live in England, so
Yes, you did.
it should be even more fun. And I'll get some inside jokes
Yes.
or some of the geographically, whatever, English centered jokes and
Yep. Yep.
um, understand their accent and all that. So let's check that out.
So I know, like me, you're grounded. You're sitting at home. I won't say twiddling our thumbs because we're surprisingly busy with all these online events and things of that nature, doing stuff like this. Is there a place that you're really excited to go visit once we get released back into the wild?
Hmm. You mean professionally, personally, or whatever?
All of the above.
Yeah. So I am soon as possible, as soon as it's safe, will be either hopping in the car or taking a short flight down to the Big Easy,
Oh,
otherwise
yes.
known as New Orleans. So from Atlanta, you can hop in the car and drive the speed limit and be there in 7 hours. So it's not too bad of a drive. You leave at 8, you're there by 3 o'clock, just in time for happy hour and for some oysters at Luke or whatever. But I do. I usually end up going like twice a year, anyways,
Sure.
and I haven't been this year or since last year. So I'm looking forward to getting my black and redfish, um, some beignets, of course,
Of course.
and then go hop over to French 75 for Sazerac or something like that, so, or French 75. Um, but yeah, that's and well, sorry, I forgot the most important part about that, which is the amazing live jazz music and other kinds of music all
Right.
over the city. So it's one of my favorite things to do is go to some of the smaller jazz venues that are dotted around the French Quarter and surrounding areas, and sitting back with a Sazerac or an old fashioned and just listening to some good uh, New Orleans style jazz, or whatever rock and roll, whatever you got there. Right? They have it all. So
Yeah.
that is what I'm looking forward to the most. And if you're interested, might might get a little posse of people together to celebrate the end of the pandemic.
Hey, I'm always down, man. We did actually, amazingly enough, a team offsite in New Orleans 3 years ago, and it was so much fun. We really enjoyed it. And one night we just, to your point, wandered into a random cafe that had music, and it was so much fun. There were, 30, 40 people in there. Now it'd be terrifying. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm so close to all these other human beings. Like, I don't know where you've been. You're not wearing masks. But it was really an enjoyable evening to say the least, and a lot of good food. I'd probably just gained 3 pounds because we said Norland like 3 times. That's how that works. It's just like Austin or Portland. Same thing happens to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't beat the food there. Get that seafood straight out of the Gulf, um, and the kind of classic New Orleans style cooking, and all the other things that they have, palm oils um, classic Creole, Cajun, etc. So, yeah, I'm getting hungry just thinking about that.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't do this over lunch, because it's, but maybe it'll make people interested in going to have something like that for planning for the future. Always half the battle here, always cooking at home. Like, what should we have for dinner tonight? Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah, but so many options that you can recycle for dinner, right?
right.
It's well, we had pizza 4 days ago. Can't have it again.
But yeah, you can. So speaking of that, you tweeted something, I believe yesterday, where step one was here's some grilled chicken, and then step two was dot dot dot, and then step three was this amazing dish. I've got questions about step two. I need details. So what did you do? It looked delicious. Why didn't you bring enough for the whole class?
So I made my signature chicken tikka masala. Um, it is a dish that I have been working on ever since I left England over 10 years ago. Because I used to live in London, and with um, with apologies to my Indian friends who live in India, uh, in my opinion, the London and basically the England area, the country, has the best Indian food in the world. And let me explain that first
Please.
before I hate mail on Twitter. The reason why I think that this is happening in India now too, but the reason why I feel like that is uh, Indian food, anyways, is not like one type of cuisine, as you know, right? It's India is very regional. It
Big
has,
country.
I don't know, 25 different languages, and every region has its own type of food, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason why I think Indian food in England is so good is because it has a lot of influence from different places.
Sure.
So, for example, the people who immigrated from England, not from India, Indian people who immigrated to England, but not from India, but from East Africa, brought their a lot of the kind of chilies and different flavors that they had locally there, and they brought it with them to England, and similarly from different places in India and around the world, as as uh, as as England and Britain were part of the Commonwealth, and Indian people who were spread out throughout the Commonwealth, not just in India, came to England. They brought that food over and they brought various different styles and flavors and spices and chilies and stuff like that. So you really get like it's still very much traditional, but it has kind of you get like that bird's eye chili that is from Africa that's in certain types of food, and it's just it's variegated. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, getting back to the chicken tikka masala. After moving here, I quickly discovered that I could not get Indian food like England. Because if you don't know, in America we have a Tex-Mex or Mexican-style restaurant on every corner. In England, their national ethnic cuisine is Indian food or Indo-Pak food or South Asian food, whatever you want to call it. So there's lots and lots of different restaurants there, all sorts of different styles. And here we have some, not quite as good. So I had to teach myself how to make this stuff. And it took quite a while. Um, but I'll quickly rattle off the process and the ingredients. Okay, since we have a little bit of time today. So you start with chicken. You can, if you're pressed for time, you just get chicken tenders instead of like cutting it up and skewering it and then putting it on the barbecue. So that's what I did yesterday. Just got some chicken tenders. You Generous portion of garlic and ginger, about a spoon per pound. And then I just use off the shelf tikka mix, spice mix. It's from the one I typically use is Shan, SHAN.
Okay.
So that I would say a third of a packet per pound.
Okay.
Mix that up, put it away for several hours overnight. Add a little bit of lemon to that to basically soften things up. And then you grill that. You can just set that aside. You need that later, obviously. And then for the tikka masala sauce itself, 4 Campari tomatoes. You want to get flavorful tomatoes, not like, kind of box standard ones. 4 Campari tomatoes. A lot of ghee. I would
Okay.
say that you need at least 6 tablespoons of ghee. I'm not sure. It
Everything's
gets
made
worse.
better with butter.
Yes, it gets worse in terms of health factors. And then you will need about uh, 16 ounces, 16, no, 8 to 10 ounces of heavy cream.
Oh yeah.
It's the good stuff. Um, and then you need a few spices. Uh, the specific spices you need are cardamom. Depending on how hot you want it, you want uh, red pepper, right? What do you call it? Pepper powder, red pepper powder, cardamom, the garlic and ginger again, and then garam masala. You can add more stuff to it. I usually add a little bit of jeera, cumin to it. Sorry, the Hindi word is jeera, but you add about a spoon of cumin to that as well, and some coriander powder as well. You basically fry the ginger, garlic, and the spices a couple minutes. Then you add in the cream and the tomatoes. You basically puree or crush, blend, whatever. Add that all in. Let it simmer for about 2 hours, and that's basically it. Except you also need to add probably for that amount of food or that amount of sauce, gravy, probably about 4 tablespoons of sugar. Right? Some people like it sweeter, some people like it less sweet, depending on how sweet tomatoes are. About 4 tablespoons of sugar, and then let that simmer. You take your chicken that you've already grilled, cut it up into bite-sized pieces, you put it in there, and you're basically ready to go. So that is it. Simple as that.
So I think I need to kick off a new show, Cooking with Geeks. I mean, clearly that's what we need at this point,
I,
right?
I'm ac- I'm actually going to do that. I posted a picture of something I made a couple of months ago, and people were like, "Oh, dude, I want to learn how to make this." And I was like, "Okay, we'll do Cooking with Geeks." So I'll get you on my cooking
Absolutely.
with critique.
Absolutely.
I'll send out a list of ingredients, give you enough time to get it from your local Indian store
Love
or
it.
mail order, whatever, and then we'll very similar to what's Guy Fieri, what he's doing now in this pandemic.
Sure.
I don't know if you've seen it, but he gets like the chefs that he's been to restaurants of, and then he has them send them the ingredients to his
Okay.
house, and then he gets like 4 of them, and then they basically he makes the dish, and then he gets his kids to taste test everything,
Sure.
and then they pick a winner. So it's
Nice.
similar to that, except not a competition. Right?
Right. No, we don't need to compete. Yeah, it's more friendly than that. So, oh,
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
That's
All
right.
right. Well, we'll have to try that. Well, I'll have you actually send me you know, actual list of how to do that so I can try to do that because I'm always looking for stuff like that and I love Indian food. That's fantastic for me.
In this pandemic, you gotta find some new dishes to cook, right?
Yeah.
Can't have spaghetti every day
Not
or
every
whatever.
night. Not every night. There's a limit. So we talked about, I've been able to get out on my bike more, play more golf. You've been getting out on your bike. Are there any pandemic habits that you really hope you can carry into post-pandemic time, which I think we all believe will happen at some point?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. One thing I have been able to do since this pandemic started is I've been able to read more, which is great. Um, I did quite a bit of reading when on an airplane also,
Right.
um, but um, but some of that time is obviously sleeping. Um, but the other thing I think is around kind of like the fitness and everything. So exercising more frequently, getting out on the bike, getting outside more.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is just being able to do that 30-minute bike ride before work or after work, and just kind of stopping at the park for 5 minutes and just not necessarily pulling out your phone and like, oh, what's happening on Twitter or emails or text or whatever. Just like leave that at home, um, because it feels like things are less busy right now, but also more busy
Right.
and work and whatever. So like it's the one thing I think what I'm really driving at is um, before the pandemic, it was a little difficult to like really disconnect.
Yes.
But now with this pandemic on, it's like when I go for the bike ride, I take my phone with me. So I have my headphones on just to listen to music at while I'm biking sometimes. But like it's basically the phone is on do not disturb mode.
Right.
So that's 30 minutes of no no interruptions, no text messages, emails, tweets, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of nice actually to be able to completely unplug like that, even if it's for a short time for 30 minutes. So
I,
that's something I'm hoping I can carry forward, being
yeah.
able to find that 30 minutes every day with no anything else going on. Right?
Right. I think that's important to be able to do that, whether it's like you say, a walk around the block or I don't know, bike ride. I mean, just something to unplug because I don't think it's healthy for us to be constantly in there, constantly doom scrolling Twitter to see what, craziness has befallen us. Did you see now there's apparently a poisonous caterpillar that it induces vomit if you touch it? Like, come on,
Oh
2020. I think the writer's room has lost the thread here. I mean, they just keep, it was murder hornets and now it's,
yeah, I was gonna say
vomit caterpillars. Like, what next?
wonderful. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope they're not coming down here.
I don't know
Um,
where they are. I saw that the other day that this is the next little critter that's going to try to make us all enjoy 2020 even more than we already do. So, don't pet the vomit-inducing caterpillar. It's the moral of the story.
yes. That I'm still getting over the murder hornet thing. Not getting over it, but getting accustomed to now with a
Right.
murder hornet.
Right. Now we're in a world with murder hornets because of course, I think the
Yeah, now we have to throw up caterpillars. Okay, great.
Exactly, exactly. I think the simulation is broken. Somebody needs to reboot it or something because it's gone off the rails. The writers have lost the plot. I don't know. I don't know. It's
Someone has to reboot the Matrix, right?
exactly, exactly. I just rewatched The Matrix the other day and still enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm not so sure how I feel about the sequels, but I very much did enjoy this one, and especially given this current situation. Like, is that what's going on? I don't. I mean, it could be. Be.
Yeah, apparently there's I saw who I don't remember who. Maybe it's one of Elon Musk's company. They have some kind of brain interface that's under development. I don't know if you've seen this yet,
Uh,
but like be able to, instead of keyboard and stuff like that, it's directly interfaced into a computer
my,
uh, by brain. And you mentioned the Matrix, plugging into
what
the
could
Mac.
possibly go wrong? I mean, if it allows me to say I need to know how to program C sharp, okay. I mean, maybe that'd be kind of cool, but
Yeah,
you know, by the same token, I can't let you do that, Hal.
yeah, yeah. You know what? I'm not going to be the first in line to get that technology when it
Probably
is
not.
finally safe. But I think it kind of would be nice because it's kind of annoying to like say, okay, Google, play some music, and everyone can hear you. Or like if you're, like out on the bike like I am, people think like, what's going on? So
So you just want to be able to think, okay, Google, and it'll start playing music. And I
it's,
hope we didn't trigger somebody's device by saying that. I apologize. We were talking about this in my graduate class the other day, and I kept saying like, "Hey Siri," and my phone kept trying to respond to me. And I'm like, oh. So I always have to be careful when we use the trigger word.
yeah, like Alexa, order 100 paper clips.
Oops. Oh, that's good stuff. So
And all of a sudden, the price of paper clips went up on Amazon.
no
Just like,
idea why.
why would that be?
So speaking of movies, is there a movie that you remember back we used to go to hotels? Do you ever have? Is there a movie that if you're flipping through the channels, like, okay, that's it, I gotta watch this now?
Yeah, that's a great question. The one that's if it's on like and I'm just scrolling, browsing, surfing, television. My one of my favorite movies that still comes on regularly, it seems, is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
And so if it's on, like I have to stop and watch some of it or all of it, depending
Right.
on what's up. So
Right.
it's aside from the the music in the movie just it's just such a unique kind of thing, but it's also historical or whatever. So, yeah, it's mostly for the music
Okay.
actually.
Yeah, you're right. Good music, good acting, good writing. It is a good movie. Yeah, that's when
Yeah,
I
it won Cannes in 2000 when it came out, I think.
okay.
So I remember it was on at the cinema, um, and I was like, "Ha, that movie's never that looks so dumb. I'm not gonna go watch that." And then of course, a friend watched it. He's like, "Oh, it's amazing.
Oh wait, it's good.
Yeah, it's good." I was like, "Oh, okay." So
I might have to, but we're always struggling to find a movie to watch as a family, and so I might have to add that to the list. Good one. Thanks for that one.
yeah, it's rated PG. You
Yeah,
can watch it with the
it's
whole
always good to
family.
it's always good to try to find that PG-13 because my son's at that age now where he wants to watch the movies where everything blows up, and why can't I watch it? Because it's rated R. You're not
Mhm.
quite old enough, kiddo. So, well, let's do a quick lightning round here. So, I have a sense of this one, but what's your favorite meal?
Oh boy. Favorite meal. How specific do you want me to get?
As specific as you want, my friend.
So I am a bit partial to Indian food. I would say that chili chicken, Indian style with gravy, garlic naan, uh, chicken biryani, and like a shish kebab or samosa on the side. That was my
You're making me hungry.
yeah, I know one of my favorites. I like it all though. So it's
Bring me the garlic naan. Just you can't. There's no such thing as too much garlic naan.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's one of my favorites. I don't think what else I make here at home. Um, that that is one of my favorites. It's just so much. I made some Penang the other day. That was good. Um, I don't know. Sometimes I just like a greasy pizza.
Oh yeah,
New York greasy pizza just hits the spot.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Hear you. Coffee, espresso, or tea?
So this is going to be a point of contention for many of our viewers out there. I actually don't drink caffeine anymore at all. I know it's crazy, right? But hazelnut decaf coffee.
All right. Pie?
Occasionally, I'll have a little bit of like just like you spent back in the old days when we were at events. I would have like a quarter cup of coffee when at a conference if there was a decent coffee
Sure.
at Starbucks or Barista or something like that. So yes.
See, my team, our superpower is we will find the best coffee in whatever city we're in. And it does not matter where that city is, we will find it. And we have hunted coffee lots of places. And
We must hang out with Mark Heckler. But anyways,
yes,
go
yes. So I was actually just texting with Mark this morning about that, and much I missed having conversations with him over a cup of coffee.
on.
So pie or cake,
Ooh, that is a tough one.
right?
But I have to go with blueberry pie to be
Oh,
specific.
my kid
So,
likes blueberry pie.
and here in Georgia, we have a large area which grows blueberries. So oftentimes you can go down to the farmers market and actually get like fresh blueberries, and then it's just make that at home. I'm not a big fan of like what do they use in like pie filling? That like what's the not the actual fruit, but what's the I've forgotten now. You make it with like cornstarch or something and like whatever. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I know what you mean. It's sort of like the
With my whole
preservy kind of syrupy.
Yeah, but it's kind of gelatinous, right? Because of the corn syrup, or not corn syrup, the cornmeal or whatever cornstarch you use to make it. Typically, when I make a pie, I have less of that and more of the fruit.
Sure, sure.
Um, but that can get really expensive because blueberries ain't cheap. Anyways,
No, no, especially not
yeah.
for getting good ones. So now you do live in a state that has both of these, but oceans or mountains?
Mm. I do very much like going to the mountains. We're about 3.5 hours from skiing here, but hiking and waterfalls and all that is not more than an hour and a half away. Probably an hour, depending on where you go. And that's great. I liked it a lot. Went kayaking a couple of months ago. That seemed like a safe activity to do in this pandemic. So did some kayaking and hiking a few months ago.
Nice.
But I do have a slight preference for the beach.
Yes.
Um, my middle name is Pratik Swim Up Pool Bar Patel.
I didn't know that. See, I've learned something about you. I had no idea that was your middle name. I mean, who knew?
Swim Up Pool Bar Patel. Yes, that's
That's fantastic.
nice to get in the water and not have to get out and just swim up and say, you know, margarita
Another
and the sort of
daiquiri, please.
right. Well, margarita, maybe pina colada,
Okay.
but yeah. And then there's also I also play a lot of beach volleyball when I can, of course.
Sure.
So being at the beach, you get pool bar in the late afternoon, early afternoon, a couple hours of some beach volleyball, get some exercise.
Well, then it's a
Um,
recovery drink at that point.
that's true, actually. So it just makes me feel. I mean, I enjoy playing beach volleyball quite a bit, but I feel less guilty than about having those 2 to 5 margaritas afterwards. So I feel like I've exercised for the day and paid it forward.
Right, right. So, food truck or Michelin stars? What are you thinking about for dinner?
Oh, yeah, I generally tend to lean towards food truck. I do like the Michelin stars. Um, Actually, there's a place right down the road from where I live. I can walk there in not too long. And our mutual friend Neil Ford and I and Vincent, we went there. It's called the Staple House. I don't know if it's going to reopen. It would be pity if it didn't. But it's one of those places where you have to book like 2 months in advance,
Right.
and you prepay for the for the fixed price. You prepay, say really good. But kind of like the food
Sure,
truck.
sure.
It's
Now, y-
yeah.
your background is books. Do you prefer a paper book or an ebook these days? What are you reaching for? You say you're doing more reading now. So what is it mostly paper? Is it mostly on your tablet? What's
Yeah,
your preference?
I have another problem.
I had no
I don't
idea
know
you were going to bring
if
props.
yeah, I didn't. I have all this stuff lying around. I told you I hadn't had a chance to clean up this office in a while.
Neither have I, which is weird because all I've done is sit at home. So you'd think I'd have ample time to clean up. Tells you where it is
So
in my priority list.
I do like paper books quite a bit, but as you can imagine, that can take up a lot of space. So what I have is I'm trying to start it up right now. It takes a second to come out of sleep mode, but I have this tablet. It is basically a reading and writing tablet, but the Kindle I find is too small for me.
Okay.
It just kind of I don't know, just like how can you read anything on this? Like give me something that's like the size of a book kind of thing, right? Um, so let me just get something up. So I have this e-reader. Right? So this
Oh
is
yeah.
a 10-inch e-reader or
Nice.
tablet. It's not just an
Nice.
e-reader. It's called a Remarkable.
Okay.
So it's pretty nice. You can load PDFs and EPUBs and you can take notes on it and you can draw, whatever. And it's pretty easy to use. But I like the large form factor because, like you, I probably spend, anywhere from 6 to 10 hours in front of the computer. So at night when I'm reading, I don't want like the little baby size Kindle. I
Right.
want the full thing.
Yep.
And you can see my font is set incredibly large
Right.
because by that time of the day, as you can imagine, my eyes are a little tired, and this makes it much more pleasant to be able to read a book. So yeah, I prefer that. I do. I still have like occasionally I'll pull out like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I have them like in book format, had for years. So I'll pull one of those out and spend a couple of days reading one of those, just because. But, yeah.
DC or Marvel?
Uh, that is a good question. I would have to go with Marvel.
Okay.
You asked earlier if something's uh, on TV as you're surfing. After over the workout, it's take your pick of a Marvel movie,
Sure.
whether it's Captain America or Iron Man or even Ant Man and the Wasp.
I mean, Paul Rudd's a national treasure. and he
Yeah,
doesn't age. He's like Tim
yeah,
Berglund. He doesn't age. They must have some kind of a moisturizing, ritual or something because they just don't age.
you just avoid the sun, carry an umbrella. So,
I mean,
I don't know.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's there's clearly something going on there. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, email, text, tweet, what's the best way to get,
Yeah,
response from
Twitter's
people?
good. At PR Patel, Pratik R Patel, PR Patel on
Should be
Twitter. I
right
do
below
most.
your face on our stream here,
Yeah,
playing along at home.
it is. There it is.
See?
Yeah. So reach out. And it says my above my Twitter it says Cloud and OSS at IBM. I also do a lot of work in the Java space,
Sure do.
Java champion. So I do quite a bit of stuff in the Java space. Also do a lot of front end with JavaScript. My favorite current framework is Vue.js. So Vue is nice, very easy to learn, very productive in it. Yeah, reach out at PR Patel. Might even be convinced to post that chicken tikka masala recipe.
I mean, I hope you'll at least share it with me because
Yeah,
I'm always curious to try these kind
well,
of things.
you're gonna be on in the
Sure,
kitchen with Pete.
I'll try it.
So
I'll try cooking
yeah,
live with you. What the heck? What do I
yeah,
got to lose?
yeah.
We actually did that as a team exercise a couple months ago remotely. Obviously, we all were cooking in our own kitchens, but sort of a team bonding experience while we attempted to make this dish. So it's kind of fun.
What did you all try to make?
So we actually had a gentleman come in, and I'm gonna blank on exactly what it was, but it was chicken. But he had us take the chicken from the full chicken and break it down and slice everything off and turn it
So,
into little different kinds of kebabs. It's a classic Asian sort of street food kind of thing. They're all on
I
kebabs,
got
and I'm blanking on exactly what kind it was, but this is what the guy does, and the stuff was great. I mean, the sauce was great. It was really a lot of fun, but I definitely know that I'm not so great with the old knife skills, again, how to break down a chicken. I felt like I wasted chicken that I liked, but it was good. It was very good. I grilled it out on my grill on my deck, and my family ate it down without complaints. So,
No,
how bad could it be?
my grill has gotten a very big workout in the last 6, 8 months, whatever,
Me too.
that last 8 years
Yeah,
since this pandemic
right. I
started.
think it's been about 8 or 9 years by the feel of it. That's how I feel about it. But yeah, it's got to the point now where my kid's basically like, "Dad, when are you gonna grill?" I'm like, "Everett, I grilled last night." He's like, "Right. So when are you gonna grill again?" He wants everything to be grilled, which I'm fine with that. I'm gonna keep doing it till it gets too cold to do it. You don't have to worry about that, but I do. Eventually, there will be snow on the ground.
It'll be probably below freezing sometime near Christmas time. So may have to not grill it at
Stay
starting.
strong. Stay strong.
So just out of curiosity, how cold will it be up in the MSP area? Let's say around Christmas time. Will it be -50 by then, or does that come later?
No, January is usually when we get the really cold stuff, and we'll have a week or two where the high for the day will be 0 or below 0, although that's fairly rare. I mean, it's not like we get a lot of those days in a given winter. It's I've had Christmas Eves actually. I remember this a few years ago. I rode my road bike outside on Christmas Eve because there was no snow. So all
Cool.
the trails were open, everything was open. I just went out on my road bike and it was no big deal. I think it did actually snow the next day, so that was the end of my riding season. It's pretty hard to take the 23 mil tire out and try that out and see what happens. But it's
Yeah.
it, it definitely can vary quite a bit in this state, much more so. I do remember, speaking of DevNexus, there was a year I came to DevNexus. It was
Mm.
warmer in Minneapolis when I left than it was in Atlanta when I got to Atlanta. I'm like,
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
wait,
It
what
was
just happened?
it was very unusual weather for us. That it was like in the 30s and low 40s the whole week. I got pretty chilly at night. We get that northern blast sometimes, and it gets cold, and we all complain that it's like, oh my god, it's below freezing for like 4 days straight, and you come down here and laugh at us, of course. But
Right. Yes. Yes. Well, and I give you and Neil grief about the one time Atlanta got about a quarter inch of snow and the freeways just shut down. People were stranded in their cars for 20 hours because of this very small amount of snow. That's
so
cool.
so actually, that reminds me. I believe you mentioned in a few weeks you have Dahlia
Yeah.
coming onto the program. She actually lives up somewhere in your neck of the woods.
Okay.
Um, and we were having a discussion about uh, how she can live in such a frigid place. But anyway, you can ask her the question on my behalf. How's that?
See, you can always put on a coat and a hat. The problem I have with hot and humid, because I've been in Atlanta and I've been in North Carolina when it's hot and humid. There's only
Yeah,
so many things you can take off. And
yeah,
I will never forget. I was at Stu's house in North Carolina, and I walked outside, and it was already 90 at 7 in the morning, and the dew point was in the 70s, and I instantly am coated in sweat, and I got to change my
first,
shirt. Yeah, literally, just like you walk outside, and like, did I just walk through a waterfall? And so I looked at Stu, and I said, "How do you people live here?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I've been outside for 5 minutes. I need to go shower and change." He said, "Oh, we don't go outside in the summer." I said, "Stu, I have a word for that where I come from. It's called winter." He said, "Well, our winters are beautiful." I'm like, "Well, my summers are pretty darn nice." It's all trade-offs. Although this is the really bounce around time of the year for us in part of the world, because it was on Friday it was 80, and then on Saturday it was in the 60s, and then yesterday it was like 32, and then this morning it was already back up in like the 60s. I mean, our temperatures go all over the map, so it's good times. It's good times. But oh, well, my gosh, we're already at the top of the next hour, my friend. How did that happen? We get
yeah,
chatting and there we go. So,
well, we
where can people learn more about the man, the myth, the legend, Pratik? What you got coming up? Anything you want to talk about? I know we've talked about DevNexus. I know next year, sadly, we are going to be virtual. What do you see coming up?
Yeah. So I have a bunch of different events coming up. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see me post about them. I actually have one tomorrow called Java for Kubernetes or J4K.io, giving a presentation on serverless architecture. So that'll be fun. It's a talk that I've given before. I have a keynote coming up at a conference in early December. Um, and that's not 100% confirmed yet, so I can't tell you which conference it is, but I can tell you that that specific presentation will be on something really interesting for everybody who works in tech, which is the future of cloud native.
Oh, cool.
So something I've been thinking quite a bit about, and this pandemic, I have a lot more time to think. But it's basically around the future of cloud native, and kind of where we're going as a software development industry. And there will be a crystal ball, virtual crystal ball. We'll look into the future and kind of figure out where you know where things are headed, and what developers and architects and DevOps people and everybody can start thinking about as we move into the further into the cloud and whatever. So
Nice. Awesome.
yeah,
Well, my friend, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really
and,
appreciate it. It's
yeah,
good to connect again. I'll take you up on that let's cook option. I'm fine with that. I'm down for anything, my friend. So I appreciate
I'm
that.
good. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me on.
Well,
It's been
thanks for
fun.
being here. And just a reminder, we're off next week, but the week after we'll have Victor Gamov here with us from Confluent, talking, I'm sure, about some Kafka things and other fun stuff. And I'm sure we'll get into some kind of workout things because Victor is a crazy workout guy. So I'm very excited to see what he has to say. We'll be a little later for that one, though, by the way, just because of the vagaries of schedules. But for now, I will bid everyone good day and have a great afternoon and an enjoyable week. Thanks, everybody.